A macabre discovery in the Mississippi River. November 4, 1999, two young fishermen, high school seniors, and their uncle find the body of a newborn wrapped in a towel.
I don't believe there probably is a more difficult homicide case.
A difficult case and shocking for the community of Red Wing, Minnesota at the time. And it grew to be known as the mystery of the babies in the water when it happened again, a second time and a third time in the 6 years that followed.
Most homicides, we know who the victim is. We have an identity, we have fingerprints that we can run. In this case, we do not have any of that.
Hi, I'm Lou Raguse, and this is Unsolved, sharing the stories of cases that have captivated people in Minnesota and across the country and perplexed the investigators working on them. Some have been solved, others still a mystery. The mystery of the babies in the water is both, in addition to being extremely unsettling for the people of Red Wing. The city sits in southeastern Minnesota, about 60 miles southeast of Minneapolis. The Mississippi River separates it from the state of Wisconsin. It's the largest city in Goodhue County, with some 16,000 people calling it home. Big, but not big enough to where they didn't know one another. In fact, many residents speculated that someone from the Twin Cities must have traveled there to dump the babies, because wouldn't someone in their city know if a woman there was pregnant but then didn't have a baby? And as the years went on, it looked like the case might never be solved. When someone is murdered, the victim's identity is important for keeping public attention on the case. But no one knew these newborns. They weren't even named. We'll introduce you to one woman who changed that. And for investigators, without surveillance footage and without family members coming forward with tips to follow, how would they ever find this mother? Advances in technology would one day show promise. We start at the beginning with those young fishermen who made the initial horrible discovery in the Red Wing Boat Marina. You'll also notice that from the beginning, police showed compassion toward the unknown mother, the murder suspect, in hopes she would turn herself in. Let's go back to that time in a story that first aired on KARE 11 News in November 1999.
Come on, baby.
On almost any day the weather allows it, this is where you'll find Trevor Larson and Jason Reese.
Beautiful evening.
Both high school seniors. They've grown up on the Mississippi, even working here in the season.
And right there you can see the dock that we moved. It kind of has a little railing around it. That's what we were doing.
But last week, their routine on the river was changed forever.
It was over in there.
The boys were helping Trevor's uncle take his boat out of the water for the winter when they spotted something strange.
I'd probably say right about in here somewhere. It was, we call them like the floating towel.
But as the uncle fished that towel out of the water, they quickly discovered it was much more than that.
So he went down, reached, pick it up, started unwrapping it. All of a sudden he kind of freaked out and threw it because what he saw happened to be an infant baby.
A full-term newborn girl that Goodhue County authorities say was born alive and dumped in the river as many as 2 weeks ago.
Police have no idea who the mother is or who left the baby in the Mississippi River, but they do know the baby was a newborn, her umbilical cord still attached.
You know, this is a sad situation both ways. You've got a child that never was allowed to live, and you've got a mother out there now is probably dealing with some personal, just huge tragedy in her emotions in her life.
I wonder if it's somebody from town or if it's from the Twin Cities down. It's just too bad when someone feels they have to abandon a child.
Oh, I'm just devastated. I just can't imagine how anybody could just, drop off a baby.
I was pretty much speechless.
And tonight it's a tragedy that Jason and Trevor say they'll never forget.
I guess it's kind of the biggest waste of life I've ever seen. Something that you should cherish and love, just kind of throw it away and watch it basically just drown right before your eyes.
Eventually, investigators were able to make a computer-generated composite sketch of what this little girl would look like if she had survived. It's cold in Minnesota in November, and that water would have been especially cold. The medical examiner determined that the baby's body could have been in the water from 1 to 2 weeks before it was found. The part of Red Wing where the marina is located was close to a hotel, so they checked for any guests who might have given birth there, since the white towel the baby was wrapped in looked like it might have matched. But they found nothing. And police kept striking out, trying to interview young women who were rumored to have been pregnant. After 4 years passed, with Goodhue County investigators still stumped, they get a chilling call. A group of teens find the body of another newborn, again on the water's edge of the Mississippi River, along a naturally occurring lake called Lake Pepin, just a few miles from Red Wing.
The high temperature was just 36 degrees at Methodist Beach on December 7, 2003, when a group of teens staying at a nearby cabin
A lot of people come to Frontenac.
discovered the body of a newborn baby boy on the beach, his head just touching the water's edge.
Well, we know it was very newborn. Judging by the umbilical cord was attached.
Goodhue County Sheriff Dean Albers says it looked to the girls at first like someone had left a doll.
I mean, it was right at the water's edge. I guess I would tend to believe it may have been in the water and either washed up because there was a lot of wave action yesterday coming from across the lake in this direction.
Just like 4 years earlier, Sheriff Albers publicly showed empathy for the mother and her family in hopes they would come forward.
People, when they're scared, make poor decisions. And that's where we've been trying to say, let's not make a second tragedy out of this. If the mother would come in, she could be injured from the birthing process. She's going to have some mental health issues.
Sheriff Albers knew this would be another murder investigation, but he didn't know yet whether the cases were connected. He shared that the leads from 1999 have gone nowhere.
You know, you'd think with all the information out there and all the things, why does this still happen? Well, the sad reality, it does. Young people still make mistakes.
And this time, police hoped that someone would admit to or report that so-called mistake.
I'm joined now by Jonathan Hunnicky, the Chief Deputy for the Goodhue County Sheriff's Office. Thanks for joining us, John.
Thanks for having us.
First of all, let's go back to the early years of this investigation. What were some of the major strategies that the department used, and what were some of the tips that came in?
The big strategies at the time were they knew it was going to be somebody from the public coming forward and saying, I knew somebody that was pregnant, or they suspected someone. They did a great job of publicizing the case back then, getting out to the local schools, checking even with local schools, hospitals they checked with, even hotels, just to see if anybody knew anything. And that was really the hope at the time, that somebody from the public would come forward and say, this is a person we suspect, and that would have been the person.
Now, that has to be kind of uncomfortable for investigators to have to approach someone who was rumored to have been pregnant and confront them on something such as this.
Yeah, it was very difficult. I was actually a school resource officer at the time and actually helped out with some of those canvassing or those tips. And people were upset when you'd call them and say, hey, we heard you were maybe pregnant. A lot of those people would be like, why would someone think I could have ever done this?
Yeah, understandable. Did investigators ever feel that they were close, and at any point did they feel hopeless?
They felt close in 2004 through the database of DNA that the BCA has. They did a comparison, and they could not eliminate a person. They went and got a search warrant obtained, went and got a DNA sample. They had a lot of hope with that one. Turned out not the mother of the child.
Okay. And so at any point, did it feel like this was never going to be solved?
I think if you would have talked to them, they always had hope, but they always knew their hope was on someone from the public coming in. And as years go by, it's just natural that you think this might not ever get solved.
All right. Well, we'll talk more with John in just a little bit.
The first baby, a girl, was found in 1999. The second baby, a boy, was found in 2003. Another 4 years passed without a break. But the mystery doesn't stop there. In 2007, a third baby was found. This one, another infant girl in the Mississippi River near the Treasure Island Casino, a 20-minute drive from Red Wing. There was a public boat landing, so it could have been anyone.
3 babies found in or near the water, and none of the cases close to being solved. As time went on, the mystery slowly faded out of mind for many. But there was one resident who all along did everything she could to keep the investigation in the public eye, to give these victims an identity, and to show them love.
Over the last 3 decades,
Like to have them kept clean.
Jeannie Matson has spent a lot of time at the Oakwood Cemetery in Red Wing,
And you just find peace when you come up here.
visiting her daughter, Anne Marie,
She was stillborn at 32 weeks, our only child.
and the graves of 3 other babies, Jamie, Corey, and Abby. 3 babies,
They're special.
found shortly after birth in the waters of the Mississippi in and around Red Wing during an 8-year span starting in 1999.
People that have children should always remember they're a gift from God.
Jeannie was shocked each time.
There are so many people that want children that can't have children that would have probably taken those kids in a heartbeat with no questions asked.
So she and her husband organized funerals and donated the burial plot.
I don't want her to be alone. Simple as that.
The couple named the 3 babies, giving them an identity, and in death, a family.
Because I didn't want Jamie, Corey, or Abby buried where they'd be forgotten.
But the question still remains why these babies weren't given a chance at life.
I think that's what everyone wants to know is why.
While Jeannie can't relate with the choices the perpetrators made,
If you have a child, it's a gift from God.
she still hopes they will come forward.
There's got to be a reason why you did what you did. You can get help for that. The only thing I regret is not being able to hold them and saying, you know, you're loved.
20 years after the first baby was found in the Mississippi River, investigators received new hope they might be able to solve these cases. It was through a new investigative technique called genetic genealogy. And an online fundraiser during the COVID-19 pandemic proved the Red Wing community's investment in seeing this saga to the end.
Boy, it's been on most of our minds for 22 years.
Goodhue County Sheriff Marty Kelly was heartened when in 2020 the community raised $10,000 in 2 days to hire Parabon Nanolabs, a company specializing in genetic genealogy that says they've helped solve 200 cases across the country in just the last 4 years. Parabon tries to identify a subject by plugging DNA samples into public ancestry databases, similar to what you might do to find relatives on sites like Ancestry.com and 23andMe. Once Parabon has determined potential relatives, their genealogists begin building family trees, researching, and eventually giving names of potential suspects to police. In this case, they're using the baby's DNA to hopefully narrow down to the parents and give investigators the leads they need to make an arrest.
For the community,
Sheriff Kelly can't say how close they are, but says there were crimes committed and they want to hold someone responsible.
there's a lot of hope there that they can start reaching deeper into family trees to finally come to a resolution.
Joining me again is John Haneke, along with Brittany Carstensen, who is a former BCA special agent. You were heavily involved once we got into the genetic genealogy with this case. Thanks for joining us, Brittany. So first of all, explain the early stages of this genetic genealogy portion of the investigation and how quickly did it start to bear fruit, lead you to somebody to look at?
Yep. In 2019, one of our investigators who had worked on the case for a very long time saw an advertisement, actually, or a special on Parabon, and we started a fundraising with that. So throughout late 2019, throughout 2020, that whole process started. The community came up with money very quickly. It was over $10,000 in just 2 days. Once that money was raised, then it was a matter of getting the DNA off, all the comparisons that needed to be done. We got towards late 2020. That's when the possible people that were related came up. Through that, we were able to talk to 2 people in late 2020, 2021. Through that, we were able to identify the father of the baby.
Okay.
And we did an interview with him. After a little longer than you take DNA samples, it takes a while to get that back. In 2021, though, we were able to identify him as the father, and then some more interviews occurred from there. Through that, then through those interviews, you get a list of people that they could have had a child with. And from that, we got 3 different people that we started looking at. So that's where we got to that point where it takes a while to do that once you're trying to really figure out someone's family history, and even working back into their genealogy, who their ancestors are. It's a very long process. That's where Parabon does do a lot of that, but we also did some of that work ourselves. Through that, never really came up with a great suspect when you do the investigative side like we do. Just wasn't a great suspect in that grouping throughout that 2021 time period. Talking with more the genealogists that we were working with, we developed another suspect. Took a lot of time looking to them. One thing we didn't want to do is give up we wanted to have the element of surprise when we went to talk to our person, that they didn't see this coming, that we were ready for it.
Okay.
With that element of surprise, that's when Brittany came with the BCA. to be kind of our interviewer with us.
Yeah, and what was the strategy behind that?
I think the strategy behind that is that, well, we had spoke with the FBI with their behavioral analysis unit.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted somebody who could relate to the suspect,
Right.
somebody who was a mom,
Mm-hmm.
somebody who was empathetic, and you know, possibly just relate as a woman.
Because you're potentially looking at somebody with a lot of shame.
Correct.
And
Yep.
and what's the best way to bring out the information from somebody in that position?
You know, it's hard. You have to relate to them on a personal level.
Okay. And so you did find her. You went and talked with a woman named Jennifer Matter. How did that initial conversation go?
Conversation actually occurred, did it right in her garage.
We did.
It was kind of different, but that's where we went and found her, and we wanted to, you know, someplace that was more comforting to her too, probably to talk to us for the first time about it. And we sat down in her garage, and we kind of started laying out the plan that was laid out to us for the best investigative strategy, because these cases are so different from any other homicide case you might work when you start talking about infants and homicides. So, and I can let Brittany cover it a little bit. She did a great job of just kind of setting our basis for that.
You didn't come right out and say, "We know you did it."
I did not. No. We knew that strategy definitely wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're going to talk to a lady who has no idea who we are. She doesn't know us from anybody that she's ever met. I had never heard of this woman before, and we essentially, like I said, had to make her comfortable. And I did that just by relating to her, like I said, on a personal level, and trying to, like John said, we're sitting in her garage. You know, we have to be adaptable, and you know, I think we were preparing for anything, and that helped.
But she didn't admit anything at that time.
She didn't. No.
And but when you walked away, did you think she was a good suspect?
When she wouldn't give us a DNA sample, it kind of hit home where it's like, we got the right person.
Okay, well, we'll circle back to that in just a moment. So who is Jennifer Matter? In early 2022, when police began to suspect Jennifer Matter, she was 50 years old and still living near Red Wing, where she spent most of her life. She had a history of alcohol abuse. In November 1999, she would have been a recently divorced 27-year-old cosmetologist. She already had 2 kids. In 2003, she was 31. 10 days after they first spoke with her, Jennifer Matter texted then Special Agent Brittany Carstensen and said she was ready to talk with her family members present. Carstensen and Chief Deputy Hunnicky went to her house, and here are some of the portions of that conversation.
When we've talked to you before, what we're really trying to get at is what's the truth of the situation. We know a lot of stuff from the case you were going through. I know a lot of hard times.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, there's a lot of reasons behind why everything happened. We know you're going through hard financial times, hard life.
Life in general, just kind of everything. In and out of jail from drinking too much and
Okay.
Everything. Did a lot of stupid things, and I didn't even know I was pregnant with her, and I was bringing these guys to school one day, and I just started bleeding, and she wasn't breathing, and I guess I just freaked out. And you know, when you're feeling all alone and not mentally stable, I just...
Jen's just something you've been holding on to for a long time.
Yeah.
And you didn't know that you were pregnant with all your son?
I know. I didn't know. Then I realized what was happening and had the baby, and she was not breathing, so I just kind of kept, you know, trying to do something, but I just disposed of her. And I shouldn't. But it's like part of me doesn't even realize what I did, or, you know, I don't even know how to explain it. My mind wasn't there. I should have gotten help right away.
Even when pressed, Jennifer Matter insists the 1999 baby was stillborn. Then for a moment, it seems Matter won't go any further.
There was a second baby. Can you tell us about that too?
A second baby?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember a second baby at all.
Special Agent Brittany Carstensen eventually gets Matter to admit she gave birth on the beach at Lake Pepin on the Mississippi River and Matter admits the baby was alive when she left him there.
So you think we left the baby just on the beach?
Yeah, hoping that someone would just find it.
Hoping that someone would find it and take it?
Yeah.
As they promised her, the investigators didn't arrest Matter that day. They came back a week later with a warrant for a second-degree murder charge.
I'm here today to announce the arrest of the mother of these two babies.
And the community finally received answers.
Wow, that's quite an interview, and it's 2 hours long in total. How did you come away from it? How do you think it went?
I think the strategy that was laid out, and that was our third interview with her, that there were some bumps in the road on the strategy, but that's why we're always adaptable. And I think Brittany did a great job of just being tenacious and just continuing to ask the questions. It was a different style interview where sometimes you can be maybe a little more aggressive with your questions, and that wasn't the recommendation. It was to just keep asking how she was, and she did a great job doing that.
And could you see when she started to kind of fold a little bit and give more information, could you see that the door was opening for you?
I could see that it was, at first it was a little bit of information here, a little bit there. Something that was different about that too is that we had her entire family present, for this interview, so that made it obviously more emotional for her, and she.
But that was helpful?
I think it was helpful, yep, she requested that.
So you are able to make an arrest based off of the information in this interview, and charges are filed. What was that like at that moment when the arrest was made?
So when we initially interviewed her, there was not an arrest. It's part of our investigative strategy too. So after we got done, we left the place. She stayed home with her family. Then we returned back to our office to meet with a lot of people then to start the process. We're getting arrest paperwork. I know on our way back to the office, it was just feeling a relief. All the work that was put into it. I know Brittany prepped a lot for the interview. All the work that was put into it, it's a huge relief. And we're very happy as well.
And how did the community react to finally be able to get some answers?
I think too, it's just a lot of relief that this was finally taken care of. That we finally had answers, that everyone could move on from this.
And I'm wondering how you both individually feel being able to play, a huge role in bringing this case to an end, and just about the crime itself and what happened to these innocent babies.
I think back to being in high school when these incidents happened, and I remember reading about them and seeing things on the news, and getting to be the person who got the mom of these babies to confess. It seems surreal to me. It was one of the best days of my career thus far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in your law enforcement career, you're going to get those cases that mean something, and this was a case that it really meant something, and it meant something to a lot of my former coworkers, former sheriffs, just even our different office staff that have been there throughout the whole thing. So it was great. I mean, you'd hear from people in the community, they were just ecstatic that it was finally resolved. It's not a great situation, no matter whenever you have a homicide. There's no winners or losers, everyone loses on it. But to have this closure was great.
Well, thank you so much for your hard work that you both put into this case, and thanks for being willing to come here and share with everybody about how it went.
Thank you.
I think so.
At her first court hearing, Jennifer Matter said, "I need forgiveness for something I did in the past." So it wasn't a surprise when she pleaded guilty to murder. But her sentencing hearing posed an incredibly difficult question for the judge. What sentence is appropriate for a woman who did an unthinkable thing 20 years ago, but might be a completely different person today? It is Red Wing's 20-year mystery of the babies in the water. Jennifer Matter now admits she put the body of a newborn baby girl, now known as Jamie, in the Mississippi River in 1999. She now admits giving birth and leaving a crying baby boy, now known as Corey, to die in the cold on the water's edge at Lake Pepin in December 2003. Matter never came forward and admitted her crime until investigators, armed with the results of genetic genealogy DNA testing, knocked on her door last year. After pleading guilty, Matter's attorneys asked Judge Douglas Bailey for mercy, probation instead of prison, because she's a different person now, as backed up by the word of her oldest daughter. Back then, she was at her lowest point, struggling with alcoholism and depression. Before learning her fate, Matter said, "I've been in prison for the last 20 years, wondering why I did what I did, how I did what I did, why I didn't do something different." Prosecutors asked for 27 years in prison, and that's what Judge Bailey handed down, saying she showed shocking disregard for human life in infancy. Matter will serve 2/3 of her sentence, 18 years behind bars before being released. She'll be 69 years old at that time. Her conviction involves only the 2003 baby, Corey. Matter was never charged with a crime involving the 1999 baby, Jamie, since she claimed the baby was stillborn. The conclusion of the Jennifer Matter case still left one unsolved mystery involving Abby, the unrelated 2007 baby found in the water near the casino. For many years, investigators thought that baby was Native American, but new genetic testing has revealed she actually was Hispanic, Mexican to be precise. The Goodhue County Sheriff's Office is continuing its genetic genealogy investigation, hoping the family trees will one day lead them to Abby's mother as well. Of course, the right tip would speed up that process, and the Goodhue County Sheriff's Office is hoping someone will come forward with information. Well, that's it for this episode of Unsolved. I'm Lou Raguse. Thanks for watching. See you next time.